Hey, everybody, welcome to Hacking HR Seattle's chapter. We are so excited to see everybody, and I am going to share my screen and we can begin to kick this off. I do see we've got some people who are continuing to join us, so let me get this started. So just to begin, we want to start on time to honor the time of everybody who began on time as well, and people can be able to watch a recording later if they want to be able to catch up. But Hacking HR, it's a global learning community and information exchange platform created to discuss all things at the intersection of the future of work, technology, organizations, and people, and the role of human resources to create better working places. Hacking HR is a space for learning, collaboration, ideation, and sharing. Our purpose is to create the best HR that's ever existed. By creating the best HR practices, we enable organizations to adapt and thrive, which means they're able to be effective in solving today's and future's challenges. There was an email from the founder of Hacking HR, Enrique Rubio, the other day that just really touched my heart about the purpose of why Hacking HR exists. And one of the points he was saying is, in the traditional classical HR model, being about compliance and recruiting, there are so many automation things that could be taking over that. And his vision is to really create a community where they are up-leveling the value that HR provides to an organization, not only to provide better value, but it also is helping HR professionals, just have some longevity, because automation is replacing so much things that here's the opportunity to really position ourselves where we want to be. And this Seattle chapter is an open community, not just Seattle, I like to say the Pacific Northwest, but we want anyone to be able to join us. This chapter is a self-managing community within the global Hacking HR brand groups. If you visit hackinghr.io, there's a lot of information about this organization. We would love to continue to build this community and have ongoing interactions between the events. There's free or paid memberships, and you can sign up there. Once you're a member, you can add Hacking HR-Seattle. There's a channel in Slack. So then we can be able to communicate with our peers and this chapter's leadership team. So please go to that, sign up for it, because then we can be able to keep in contact and have ongoing conversations. Our Seattle leadership team, we have Santana Grayson. She is our current co-host, so she'll be monitoring the chat and letting people in. She's helped with our infrastructure, one of our team leads. I'm Brian Buck. I manage our communication and the events. And our Jose is our coordination, and he's our team lead as well. And Stephen Jones supports all three of us in all of the things we're doing to bring Hacking HR here to the Northwest. Want to let everybody know we actually have quite a few events planned. We had our first event back in June, and now we actually have monthly events planned, not only for today, but October, November, December, January. February is to be determined, but next month is going to be a town hall discussion. This is our chance just to meet as a community, to talk about what's important to us. And as leaders of the Seattle chapter, we want to make sure that we are developing panels and programs that are meaningful and needed specifically to Northwest HR. So this is the opportunity to do that and help shape what's to come. November 17th, it's going to be about human capital management versus human experience management. Very different. We could talk about that and what that looks like. December 8th is going to be a networking holiday event. This is later in the day because we want to be able to just create that community, have some fun. And then January 19th, we're going to focus on manager competencies. And after this event, we'll send an email with kind of a wrap up, but we'll send you the link for Eventbrite so you can sign up for the October 13th event as well. Oops. Now, when we talked about this, it's so important that we focus on building community. And even though we have a great panel planned for everybody, we are going to spend 15 minutes just networking. We want you to be able to interact together and get to know each other. And then we will spend 30 minutes with our great panelists. And then we will have the last 10 minutes for Q&A to be able to ask the panelists any kind of questions, and we can go with that. But for now, in the chat, introduce yourself, say your name, what industry you're in, and what role. So you might be a HR person, but you might be a consultant, or you might be a leader. We want to make sure that we have all of these people talking together. So put that in the chat. And then when you go to the breakout room, you could do those same things. 2, share why you are interested in today's topic, which is human resources as a strategic partner. And 3, share one HR or people management challenge in 2020. I'm sure everyone has encountered one or a few of those, but it could be something maybe you don't know how to address yet, or it could be something you're actively addressing. But we want this as a question just to be able to let everyone know you're all in the same boat, and so much to talk about. I am going to stop sharing here and make sure we got some people answering in the Okay, so please add that to the chat. I'm going to add those questions. Oops, let me update this here really quick. I'm going to add what you do in the networking groups to the chat, so that way you've got that to follow along. All right, Santana, do you want to break people off into the groups, into the breakout groups?
The option went away from me. Can you do it? So sorry, Brian.
Okay, yep.
Disappeared.
All right, we've got 15 minutes, so I'm sending everyone away now. All right, hey Matt, hey Michelle. Oh, looks like everyone left, so I get to join a room. Oh, are you there, Matt? Let Matt get in there. All right. So this is the fun of recording in breakout rooms. The host ends up by themselves. So I will move them over. I'll join this group. Pause the recording. Here we go. All right, so recording the breakout room here, and this is the opportunity. Do you guys get to share who you guys are and kind of talk about some of your questions?
We were just about to get started. We had somebody that was on and then had to drop, so
okay.
We were waiting to see what that looked like. But yeah, Michelle, do you want to start and just do a quick intro? That'd be great.
Sure. So I'm Michelle Coven. I work for Multicare Health System. I'm currently an executive HP Human Potential Business Partner, and I actually support Mary Bridge Children's Hospital, and I support the Behavioral Health Service Line, and I support the Cardiovascular Pulse Service Line as well. And so, and I've been doing that role for about 2 years. And some of the questions I have thinking about being a strategic business partner, thinking about how you help support meaningful change, especially now and when many of us are working in a virtual environment.
Mhm.
And so being a virtual player at the table, in air quotes, knowing that we, most of us aren't always at the table anymore. So trying to think about how to have that meaningful or useful input at those times.
Yeah,
That's
that's a really
awesome.
really good question for sure. My name is Jeff Heckel. I'm a senior HR manager for Amazon. Been with Amazon about 7.5 years now. And I think for me, from a strategic HR perspective, I agree. I think the entire work from home process and who's going to work from home and when are we going to go back? Are we ever going to go back? There's a lot of questions, I think, floating in the air about not even just that, but even kind of social unrest and all of these types of things that we have going on. So it's a lot for us to think about. So for me, my always question is, what's the biggest priority? How do we establish time management and prioritization around what is the most strategic thing we should be discussing? Because I feel like if we talk about one, there's always another one that pops up. And is that more important than one? And so that's always a difficult thing, I know, for me in my role, and I'm sure a lot of us, on how do we keep straight what's the most important from a strategic perspective to focus on.
Great.
That's a really good question too.
Kind of like a Pandora's box of things that we're going to uncover through this, because there's so many things that build upon each other, I believe. My name is Brian Buck, and I'm a small to medium-sized business coach. And one of the things that I do is I work with leaders who, they know what their financial goals are, or their financial strategy, or their growth strategy. But when it comes to people strategy, they don't always have an answer for that. And that piece is so directly related to achieving the growth in the financial strategy. So to me, I see why I'm really excited about this topic is to see how HR can be at that table. And I love how you talk about, Michelle, what's a virtual table? What does that mean? And how does that work? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm also been spending the last dozen years doing performance improvement. And I have often seen when human resources isn't part of the strategy, there's always a longer term ripple effect of we've got this strategy and then everyone going, how are we going to do this? You didn't have enough information to make that decision, or how are we going to actually make this happen? And so strategies end up not being done on time or being abandoned because you didn't really have everything lined up to make a better decision going forward. So to me, the effectiveness to help organizations be successful means you need to have that people piece in there.
Yeah.
The other question that I had for the groups is, what's a 2020 challenge that you either addressed or are addressing? What's unique about this year? There's so much. Besides, I've heard many times that people are going to start using 2020 like a new curse word, like that's so 2020.
Yeah, I think for me, the one of the biggest challenges I've had, and you started to touch on it a little bit, is just how do we manage performance management in this situation? When COVID hit, and obviously everybody started working from home and trying to figure out their lives and school from home. I mean, all of these things. How do I know when somebody's truly underperforming, or how do I know when somebody should be, provided extra coaching, or, all of those process steps? Because it's a delicate topic. Do I start asking this employee like, hey, are you struggling from home? Do you have things going on, that are affecting it because you were a top performer and now it's not happening? So I get a lot of questions around when is the right time to start addressing performance, especially now when I don't have the touch point. I can't sit face to face potentially with them as often as I'd like to and have those discussions, plus the fact that they're managing other things. So it's become a much more gray area, and performance management already is a very gray topic. And I think in a lot of ways now it's even more gray, I think, given where we are in 2020. So that's one of my still big topic areas to dive into.
Good. Michelle?
I think that's a great question. I also think I almost do it in reverse. I think that I've called a lot of this the COVID cloud. The COVID cloud has kind of redirected all of our strategies. And so I've been thinking about how do we integrate and reprioritize the strategies that we had in place and we were going to do for 2020, and kind of rethink about what's important now, knowing that we've implemented all of these new things. Kind of how do we unwind and start to bring back in all the things that we were going to do
Yeah.
in this new world. And so that's kind of the things that I've been thinking about. How do we start to think about unwinding all of the reactive stuff we did and start to bring back in all the proactive planning we were trying to implement and think about a year ago that we were planning to do for 2020.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of the things that I found as I launched my business right at the same time COVID hit, which was fun because all of my work is about proactive, where we want to go, but everyone was in survival mode. Like, okay, we just need to figure this stuff out. And, just wondering how long survival mode still is in people's minds versus the creation mode and the moving forward mode.
Yeah, I agree.
Good stuff. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the room because we are going to get started at 10:20. So nice to meet you two, and nice to actually talk to you, Michelle, after knowing of each other for so long.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yes. See you guys. All right, everyone should be coming back in just a moment. Just make sure okay, there we go. All right, looks like we've got everyone coming back. I am going to start off our panelist here, and I'm so glad we've got so many brilliant panelists. I got a chance to meet with them last week, and man, they've got so much stuff to share. I'm excited for you to hear it. Before we begin, though, if you haven't added to the chat your name, your industry, and your role, this will help the panelists to be able to know, who's out there. What kind of, if we all talk about healthcare, no one was from healthcare, that wouldn't be as valuable for you. So please make sure you add that to the chat. We'll be taking a look at that, and we shall begin. Just show you. All right, so we are going to be talking about strategic HR partnerships. And just like in the chat, when I wanted you to put that information, please add any Q&A that you have into the chat, and we will address at the end of the panel. Santana, one of our Hacking HR Seattle leaders, will be monitoring that and compiling it, so that way we can make sure we share that. But we've got an incredible panelist. We've got Jeff and Rosa and Rachel and Laura, and I'm Brian Buck. I'm going to be moderating as well, and I am going to turn this down and turn it over so that way we get our panelists to speak, and we'll begin our questions. So panelists, if you can introduce yourself and a little bit about yourself, and then we can get on with the questions.
Any order you want us to go in, Brian?
just jump in, and if we have awkward pauses, then I'll call on folks.
Okay. Rachel, why don't you go? You were about to talk.
Oh, sounds good. So to introduce myself, I'm Rachel Nye. I'm out of Seattle. I'm the director of HR for Bulletproof 360. We are not just a coffee company, but also health and wellness. I'm really, really excited to be here just to talk a little bit more with HR professionals and learn from others as well about how this year is impacting us going forward. My husband and I have lived in Seattle for about a year now. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. I was telling Laura just now, we have a very large dog who's 140 pounds and sleeping her nap number one of the day in the other room right now. Really, really happy to be here and to continue networking and meeting other people and learning even in this virtual environment. So thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you.
I'll jump in. My name's Rosa. I'm the director of people operations at LegalPad. We're an immigration startup. I live in Seattle, but you may be able to tell I'm not from here. This is not a Pacific Northwest kind of accent. I've lived all over, most recently in New York, and before that I was in London. I am very passionate about this particular subject, HR as a strategic partner. I have labeled myself people operations, not to HR quite specifically. We can jump into that a little bit later, but I think now is the time, and I can't wait to chat to everybody about why this is so important right now.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hi, good morning to everybody out there. My name is Jeff Heckel. I'm a senior HR manager with Amazon. I've been with Amazon about 7.5 years now. I also, I think with a lot of us, figuring out how to play dad and teacher now as well. My son and my daughter are over here outside my office, logging in. So so don't mind me if I look over to make sure they're still logged onto their computer. I'm still trying to play that game and figure out how they're doing all that. But agree with everybody. This is such an important topic in terms of strategic HR. I've had a lot of roller coaster rides, as I'm sure we'll share today, about the ups and the downs of how we do that and where we have opportunity to grow. So excited to talk more about it today.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Hamill. I am the Chief People Officer and the Chief Science Officer at Limeade. We're an employee experience technology company. I'm located right now in Woodinville, Washington. And I am also an organizational psychologist and helped start the company about 15 years ago. So the concept of being strategic within HR is not only, what I get to try to do in my job every day, but also in terms of the research that we do in Limeade Institute and how important it is that we think about people and human beings in a strategic way. So super excited to be here with you today.
Great. So the first question I want to open up to the panel is when we talk about HR as a strategic partner, what's the vision or what does that mean to you? And why is 2020 the year to really be talking about it and building up to 2021?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think from my perspective, there's always been value in having HR as a strategic partner. This year is just kind of forcing it out of necessity for anybody who kind of wasn't in that strategic capacity before. So I think right now, when we look at HR as a strategic partner, one of the mistakes that I've made in the past that I try to keep in mind going forward is having kind of a separate HR strategic plan and a separate business plan. So I think that one of the most important things in actually moving forward in a strategic HR role is to make sure that your vision for HR falls in line with the business strategic plan, but also supports it. And you're able to show leaders how actually your HR strategic needs and your plan and what you're doing with people and talent can kind of seamlessly support the overall vision and mission of the company, both long and short term. They shouldn't be two separate things. Those types of things will help you have that seat at the table and really kind of be able to be a part of those decisions going forward and not just kind of be an arm to the company in a supportive capacity.
Great.
Laura, I think you're
Sorry, I did it. I did the classic start to talk before unmuting. So I just want to jump on to what Rachel just said, because I completely am with you and agree with you. In fact, I might push it even harder to say people are your business, right? It's not only do they need to go hand in hand, but they are one and the same. And for organizations to think that they're not it's a huge loss, right? To not understand that they are one and the same. And really, if you don't care about your people, you don't care about your business, if I could just flip it on its other side. So to me, the catalyst this year, really, and I think the word catalyst is such a good word to kind of frame it with having these forced experiments, right? Forced experiments of working from home and realizing, oh, the world doesn't come to an end. People actually still work and really good things can still happen. The forced experiment of, people realizing people are whole human beings. Like, what a concept that they might feel stress, or that their physical health might matter, or that there's a financial impact, right? So to me, this forced experiment that we've had has made us realize what really matters. And it's human beings, right? And so to me, that's why we have this opportunity as HR to keep going with this. Like, let's not lose this. Let's not undo this. Let's take advantage of this opportunity and make this a catalyst to say, and this should continue. We should keep trusting people. We should keep empowering people, and we should keep caring about them as whole people in order for our business to be successful. So anyway, I'm just all about, this is a real opportunity for us, I think.
I mean, Laura, you could not have given me a better, I literally, my first sentence that I wrote down when Brian asked this question is like, this is an opportunity. This is the time for HR to shine. Right? If you ever wanted to, they don't take me seriously, how can I be a strategic partner? Now is when you really show your worth. The 2008 financial crisis was on the finance team. This crisis is on people and the people teams and those of us that make it worth it for the people who work with us. So that doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard. That doesn't mean that this isn't one of the toughest time all of our people are going to be going through. 2020 just will not end. In so many ways. And for a people team, if you've always been asking, why won't somebody just give me a chance? I know that we can be a strategic partner. I know we can do this. Well, hey, 2020 is on a platter for you to jump up and put your hand up and implement some things. And we'll talk about more tactical things about what you can do a little bit later. I also want to bring up a seat at the table as part of strategic HR. I think it's really important. A big part of 2020 was Black Lives Matter. And I can't believe it took us this long to be able to say that and it not be controversial. So I definitely want to bring that in, as a queer immigrant woman of color working in people operations, it's really important for me to have the right people in the table, make the right people around the table making strategic decisions. And that's going to play a really big part in your HR strategy. And I think it really should. So I just want to highlight that as well. Opportunity and getting the right people in the room.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can add, because you guys nailed it on the head, I think in all three facets, I would say this: challenge yourself to think bigger than ever as well. When you think about the opportunity and everything that was just said about this is our chance, this is all of that, don't limit yourself to what are we doing tomorrow or what are we going to do next month. I think in a lot of this ways, we need to be thinking much, much bigger. I think everybody kind of said business is not going to operate the same way it has, in the past. So this is the time for us to really go to, you probably heard the term blue sky thinking. Like, let's go do that. Let's think about how are we going to operate differently, use our experience, our education, our ups and our downs, and all of the things that we all have as HR professionals to then guide and be the strategic partner to say, you know what, that idea right there is only going to get us through the end of this year. What are we going to do after that? What are we going to do in January? Because that's not going to get us far enough. So I think that's where we have an opportunity as well to really push ourselves and push our leaders and our business leaders to think really big about what's going forward. So that would be the only thing I would add to that.
Wonderful. Thank you. I came from the world of healthcare, and it is interesting. You just made me think about how how much the one who wants to make the transformation, like HR, also needs to transform themselves. Because if you get into a mode of this is how we've always done things, you've got to make that change to be able to, in fact, make the change happen. So I like that blue sky thinking is not only just in how you interact, but also in yourself. So that's great. The next question is, share some stories. What are some wins or challenges related to being a strategic partner? It could either be a time when you weren't a strategic partner and you kind of had a moment of, oh man, if I was, this is where it would have been different. Or maybe it's been along your journey on, hey, here's some wins and challenges we had to get here. And then maybe what are the wins or challenges after you're a strategic partner? Because I know some of you guys are in that role already in your organization. So let's share some stories.
I know for me, I have had multiple experiences in which I've come into a new role in the past, and I show up and I walk into a room and everyone shouts, "Oh no, HR is here. Who's about to get fired?" And while it is a half joke, it also has some truth in their minds about their perception about what HR really is. So I think there is still kind of an old school thought process that HR, in addition to the compliance and recruiting piece, they're the ones who put you on corrective action or who fire you. Not everybody truly understands the holistic nature of HR, that it spans the entire employee life cycle, and there is so much more good than there's bad associated with the role. So I think for me, just looking back, I can think of a role many years ago. I walked into the previous HR person in the role was very much in a kind of transactional capacity. So I think for me, it's over time getting trust and changing the mindset and the preconceived notion about what HR really is. And that's not given to you. You can't just walk into a room and say, "Oh, I want you to treat me as a strategic partner." It's much more so, I try to listen to people more than anything. What do you like about your job? What don't you like? And then kind of put the pieces together as well. How can I help you as a coach to leaders? How can I help coach your employees? And with those things together, the most, I think, meaningful win for me, kind of looking back, was walking into a workplace day one, 50% turnover rate, very, very unhappy employees, very low engagement survey results. And then when I left there several years later, being able to have significantly reduced turnover, have employees come up to me and say, "My work life is so much better now." And just based on the amount of time we actually spend at work, being able to truly impact that by spending time with them, listening to them, and really being viewed in that strategic capacity, working with their managers, was incredibly meaningful to me. So that's something that I love most about my job, just really being able to make a meaningful impact on people's lives.
Beautiful.
I have an example of a win last week. And this might be, the nature of my role and being a co-founder of the company, but we've been working on our 4-year strategic plan. And so we're an employee experience technology company. And so there's a lot in the strategic plan about what that's going to look like and what are the different kind of categories we're going to go in to expand the employee experience. So we've been working for months and months on that. But we've been trying to really synthesize it and crystallize it and make it easy for our employees to understand it. And so the win that I felt really great about is sort of the shortcut label that we're giving this whole strategy is EX inside and out, that we are focusing as much on our own employee experience and what happens with our own employees, and that goes hand in hand with the software we're trying to create externally. So to me, that was a huge win to get that in the inside piece at the same level as the software we're trying to create. So to me, the integrity that has and the kind of showing that people are our business, right? And then it has to go together.
Yeah, I think, so for me, similar to Rachel, I think it was a big learning experience for me in my transition, even at Amazon. I spent about 5 years of my time in operations. So, being an HRBP in a warehouse, 1 million square feet, 5,000 employees running around, all that kind of fun stuff, is very tactical. there were some levels of strategic for sure, but it was very, I would say, traditional in a lot of facets. And then the last couple of years, when I transitioned to the role I'm in today, managing a more corporate environment, it was a huge shot in the arm because I'd always wanted to see like our 3-year plan and organizational design, right? You hear these big words about what we should be doing. And I thought to myself, I can't wait to do that. I can't wait to sit at the table and do that. And I was invited right away, like, okay, we're going to start diving into it. And my head exploded. I was like, I have never thought this way before. Like, what in the heck is organizational design? Like, I've seen it in a book and I've taken a class and I remember them telling me about it, but I've never like actually sat in front of directors or whomever to say, how are we going to design an org of 500 people that's going to make sense, right? And so to me, the win that I would have is being very open about that and not trying to kind of push my way through it mentally. In Amazon, we talk about, when you hit a wall, you gotta, you can't just break through it. You got to look up and ask for help and be able to have that moment where you do that. And that's, to me, is where I became more strategic just by asking for help. And just by saying, listen, I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't know if that's truly there. And the leader was awesome and kind of guided me through like, here's why this is or isn't the right way of doing it. We had multiple meetings and I think the design that we created for the next 3 years is fantastic. But I think for me, had I not gone into it with open eyes and being very kind of just open about my lack of knowledge, maybe in some cases of where I thought I was going to be strategic, I might not have gained that level of trust, if that makes sense. So that was, I felt like, a big win and kind of a way to look at strategic partnerships.
So I want to give an example of a loss, and it's a tiny loss. It's one of the losses that signifies all the other little things that happen that mean you're not a strategic partner. And this was early on. Before me, they had a HR consultant and contractor working. I don't know if any of you have ever come into an organization where that's the case, where HR is kind of separate from the actual organization. And the word proactive would, like, nobody's going to ever use that word to describe the situation. It's reactive, reactive, reactive. And some of the new employees have been promised a commuter benefit. And so the CEO was like, yeah, that sounds fine, sort it out. And so our reactive HR consultant went to sort it out, and they explored transit cards and and then some other people found out that there was a commuter benefit, and they're like, why do some people get a commuter benefit and not other people get a commuter benefit? I can see some of you nodding, and I want to use this example because it's such a little thing. It's a commuter benefit. It's like how many dollars a month per person. And so I join. This is all happening. I'm seeing it happening. I don't know if can I jump in here? So what I do is I do a business calculation, and I go to the CEO and I'm like, this is how much it's going to cost you a year, because you can't give it to some people and not other people because you're going to get done for discrimination and it's a shitty thing to do. So this is how much it's going to cost you. And he's like, I don't want to pay for that. And I was like, yeah, no, I know you don't. We're a tiny startup. It's kind of obvious. And so I had to have, during an all hands, I had to announce to the entire team, we weren't going to do a matching commuter benefit, and this was why. Can't afford it. And I had to take the crap, right? I was not involved in the initial decision. I had never made the promise, but it was on my team and it was on people operations to sit and just kind of be like, mea culpa. Luckily, I had an incredible CEO who jumped on and was like, hey guys, this was actually on me. I shouldn't have run forward without talking to anybody. So he kind of stood up for me, which was really great. But if you need an example of how you aren't a strategic partner, that's it. It's tiny, it's small, but that's what eats at engagement. That's what eats at employee experience. And if you're in the room at the beginning, if you're planning the benefits as a package, if you're communicating through the recruitment process, you can get away from all of that stuff. So I'm not going to share a win. I like that story because I think it amplifies the kind of the pain points of not being a strategic partner.
Yeah, I love that. Is moving to being a strategic partner doesn't mean everything's going to be rosy. It's really helping strategic problem solving at a bigger level too. So that's great. Let's go ahead and provide some practical tips and steps that people, this audience can be able to take or consider. And these steps could be things that you've done or things looking back you wished you would have done, because we want to give people something that they can be able to take action on.
I think a few things stand out from my perspective. The first is, if you don't already feel like you know the business or spend a significant amount of time getting to know the business, then make that a priority. Because people are your business, and HR and people are one and the same. Make sure that you understand how your vision can really mesh with the actual business. I think another one is not just planning out tomorrow's HR or a month from now or next week from now, but really looking at years down the line. And that can be very, very difficult, especially right now when everything is changing constantly, and some things like COVID that we wish would change aren't really changing. But not using them as an excuse, rather kind of using it as a tool to propel you forward. So create that strategy, because culture will happen whether or not you create it. So being proactive can really help you ensure that you are shaping it and it's not happening to you. And I think the biggest thing for me, and I mentioned this earlier, but just to really spend so much time listening to people, listening to their perspectives, also listening to yourself, listening to your own gut, telling you what is right, listening to your own heart and your head as well. And that can take a few different forms. I mean, it's not as easy as it used to be. It used to be we could walk around the office and talk to people. Now we have to be much more intentional through Zoom. Maybe if you, for example, years ago, I worked in manufacturing and retail HR, and people couldn't come to my office to talk to me because they were on the floor working. So I would need to go out of my way to make sure that I was just working alongside them on the floor so that I could talk to them. But I've learned so much just by talking to people, and I never would have learned that otherwise. So first listening, and then taking some time to self-reflect, absorb, and turn that into action.
Great.
Guess we sort of have an order now, don't we? We're going in.
It's kind of working out that way.
Yeah, I know, right? I'd say this is sort of following up with something Rachel said earlier, but I think measurement is really important, and how we think about measuring constructs that matter to the employee experience, right? So how do we think about, are we measuring engagement? Are we thinking about culture? Or do we even know what our perception of our employee experience is? So to me, having measurement is a really effective way to influence leaders and for them to start seeing the impact that people have, and the employee experience has on people. So measurement, I think, is a really important point. And then another little trick that I've done in the past is take any sort of version, a PowerPoint version of your business strategy, and report things out from a people perspective in that deck. So if you have a house, one of the mission values initiatives types of houses, or anything that has your business strategy on it, create a slide that has people stuff in it too, and just keep connecting visually anything that's people related, especially anything you measure, with anything with the visual your company has for business strategy.
Yeah, that's a really good point in terms of metrics and understanding, because I think that's one of the things that I've learned more about in my role is that we should be managing HR as a business. We have deliverables, we have metrics and ways that we can drive the business, right? Yes, we're not putting the package on the line, or we're not doing those types of things. I get that. But the person that's doing that, the attendance, the attrition metrics, the culture metrics, there are ways to measure our business to then be able to present back up to senior leaders or stakeholders, whomever that may be, to say, here's the value proposition of what HR does for you. And so a step for me is, how do I learn about HR as a business to then be able to speak in terms of that? So when you are meeting with business leaders or whomever, you're speaking about HR, but it's in a way that they too can help understand, right? Like at the same point of we want to learn about the business, a lot of times our business leaders don't know enough about HR to really know how do they come to us and ask us questions. We've talked about kind of the legacy HR, but they don't really know how to approach a conversation, I think, in a lot of ways to say, how do I ask HR to be a strategic partner? So we have to be very open about that too. And that's why I feel like running HR as a business and speaking in those terms and talking through metrics about how we do that and impact the business will then open the door to say, oh, I see, you can help attendance and attrition because of how you're recruiting differently, or how you're, whatever that may be, or we're onboarding in a different way through learning and development. All of those things have a trickle down effect, like we've talked about today, to be a huge business impact. So that would be my tip and trick, is to think about how you do that going forward.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of my points are going to repeat some of the things that you guys have said. I want to really emphasize one thing first, though. You have to believe that you are a strategic partner, right? You know, at the beginning, I talked about how this is an opportunity. If you've been waiting for people to give it to you, now is the time to kind of grab it and go. But if you go in, you're like, hi guys, I would really like to be a strategic partner. It may not be taken as well as you're like, guys, this is the strategic plan for people operations. This is the business case, and this is the business plan, and this is why they're all connected. It's going to be taken very, really differently. So thinking of yourself as a strategic partner is your first step. If you want a tactical tip, that's it. You are a strategic partner. There you go. Done. And then the second one is know your audience. You know, a lot of what we're talking about is, you know, we're selling to another team. And so we're selling to the whole team. I've got my ENPS up. The survey went out this morning for this quarter. I'm nail biting, refreshing it every 5 minutes. But you've got to know your audience, and you've got to ask for feedback. Otherwise, what will you won't know what to do. And then my third point is always, and I come back to this every time, and I feel like SHRM is like really into this. All the different HR principles always come back to business case, business case, business case. Why is this good for our company? Why does this drive us forward? It doesn't have to be a for-profit. It works the same in nonprofits. It works the same in startups. No matter what industry you're in, people want to know how this aligns with your business goals. Why are you hiring that person? Why you think that that's a good organizational move? So I think the 3 points that I'd leave you guys with is you are a strategic partner. Know your audience and get that business case super tight, and it'll win every time if you can do that.
Man, thank you everybody for such great information. I don't know about everyone who observed, but I actually took like 3 pages of notes just in these 30 minutes. And I already knew what they were going to talk about to a certain degree. So I really hope everybody got so much out of there. Santana, have we had any questions or answers? And obviously they have the answers. Any questions that have come through?
Not yet, but I have one to pose to you guys. Let's say, you've developed your partnership. You've used a trusted advisor before in the past. You have your business cases, and leadership still decides to move forward with the decision that isn't the best scenario. What's your advice on that?
That's a really good question, Santana. I think every single person on this call has dealt with that. So in preparation for this Zoom, I did a little bit of research. And if you Google HR as a strategic partner, maybe it's because of my search history, I understand their algorithms, you will come up with a Harvard Business Review article from 2012 saying, why is HR still not a strategic partner? It's like, gosh. And then you realize that in 1990, the first time of HR as a business partner was brought up. There's a book called HR Opportunities, I think. So we are in 2020, and in 1990, we started talking about HR as a strategic partner. It is going to happen. You're still going to get pushback. You're going to write the tightest business case in the world, and it's still going to go in a different direction. When it doesn't go right, when the things you've said have been proven true, you can't be the I told you so person. But you can be the what we can do now to fix this. And always being the partner in coming to the right solution instead of the beating you over the head with my idea is it's that relationship, it's that knowing your audience. At no point at any time when the story I told and the CEO was like, oh, actually that's my fault, did I say, well, if you'd listened to me, that would not have gone down really well. But what you can say is, things like this happen. Why don't we try it another way? I've got some really cool ideas. Look at the metrics or the stats that I looked up to prove this. This could be really cool. Why don't we just try something else? I think that's always going to be people operations. HR gets a lot of shit. And you end up fixing a lot of other people's mistakes. And if you can do it with a smile and a great attitude, it's going to get you really far.
It's just all about resilience, I think. I mean, that this whole role, this is what it's been mind-blowing to me since I've been in this job, is there's so much that's coming at us. There's so many things that are hard. There's so many opportunities for I told you so. There's so many opportunities for hurt feelings. And it's just, you just got to keep reminding yourself, right, that there's a bigger thing you're trying to do, and that this is, you're really trying to make this a great place to work. And so to me, there's sort of a talking myself into things sometimes, and like encouraging myself to remind me of the bigger picture, and not to take things personally, and not to be beaten down by it. I think this job really requires so much resilience, and just keep coming back every day, right? And trying in a different way. So I think it's a hard job.
I think for me as well, I completely agree with both of those points. One is just realizing if you don't necessarily get your way and what you'd planned out, it doesn't necessarily mean there's a right and a wrong answer. It more means it's time to look at somebody else's perspective, see where they're coming from, and maybe ask yourself, why did the decision maker land at the decision that they landed at? And then after that, for me, self-reflection is very important. Okay, so I didn't get my way. Here's why this person made the decision that they made. And what can I do differently going forward? How can I learn from this? Was this a mistake? Could I have done something better? And then how does that relate back to the bigger picture going forward? And just realizing that it's okay. Different people have different perspectives. And that's why we work so well together as a team.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. I think resilience is great. 100% agree. And I think the other thing too that was, I think, echoed several times is, and I've said it a couple of times myself, is be okay asking. Like, I get that we went a different way. Tell me what I could have done differently. What more information? Is it more of a data deep dive, for example? Was there something else that we can look at? There's always ways to look at decisions, kind of post-mortem of what happened and how do we identify and grow from it, because they happen so fast and so rapidly. Sometimes it's a 5-minute conversation. Sometimes it's a 5-hour meeting. It doesn't matter how long or whatnot, but take the time to do it, because you don't want it to get to fester either and be like, get frustrated with it, because it's going to happen so fast. You're going to have wins, you're going to have losses 4 or 5 times in a single day. So I think it's processing it, understanding it, and quickly moving to the next one, especially in 2020, that's for sure.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the panelists and to our audience. And I want to share, let me make this slide come up again, on how to be able to connect with our panelists after this. So thank you. Reminder, go to hackinghr.io, and you can either be a free or paid member. Once you do that, we have a Slack channel. Look up Hacking HR-Seattle, so we can be able to have this community, be able to continue the conversation. And Rachel, Jeff, Rosa, Laura, and myself, here's different ways that you can connect with us or continue to follow us from there. So, and we will send this last slide and information to all who registered for this event, but I'll leave this up. So thank you, everybody, and I look forward to having everyone in our October event when we will do a town hall, and we won't have anything scripted, but just have a conversation about what's really important here in the Northwest. And maybe we can do some problem solving, or we can set up future events to address certain issues. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you to the panelists for all of your preparation and your time. And thank you, everyone, for having an open heart and mind to learn. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you,
that
everybody.
was fun.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Nice to meet you
Thanks,
too.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.